Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this week's conservation webinar offered by the Botanical Society of South Africa. My name is Martina Trianig. I'm the Botsok Conservation Project Manager, and we have an exciting lineup of speakers for you today. 5 speakers that will be telling us a little bit more about this year's Great Southern BioBlitz. Engage, explore, and make a difference. As many of you may know or may not know, this is a great opportunity for you to become involved in a BioBlitz event as a citizen scientist and to also contribute to scientific platforms online and in real time. Just to briefly introduce our speakers to you today, we'll first listen to Suvana Prabhu from SANBI, and Suvana is the director of the Kru Summer Rainfall region. Welcome, Suvana. We're very privileged to have you here with us today. And then our other 4 speakers is also Ismail Ibrahim from the SANBI Kru node in the Cape Floristic region. We're happy to have Ismail here today, and then followed, we'll listen to Vatiswa. Vatiswa is based in the Eastern Cape and representing the Kru program from that side. We'll have Eunisia Situ. Eunisia is the Botsok and Kru Conservation Coordinator based in KwaZulu-Natal. And then finally, we'll have Tony Ribello from SANBI, who will take us through some INAT tools that will be useful also that you can use in the Great Southern BioBlitz. I'd like to just go through a couple of announcements for general orientation before we hand over to our speakers. Firstly, you're welcome to note your location in the chat. It's always nice to see where people are dialing in from across the country. And then you're always welcome to also ask questions via the chat to any of our speakers that we'll try and answer either in the chat or live, depending on how much time we have in between. We'll also be posting a couple of useful links in the chat that you can utilize during your BioBlitz event. And then the webinar will also be available if anyone would be interested to look at it afterwards, and it will be posted on the Botsok website. I should mention that the Great Southern BioBlitz is due to the 20th of September to the 23rd of September. And at this stage, we have about 40 projects registered under the Southern Africa or the South African platform. Suvana is probably going to take us into a bit more of that and to give us a national overview on that perspective. Then we'll have our 4 other speakers talking a bit more specifically about BioBlitzing and the GSB happening in the different provinces that they represent. So I think, Suvana, it's over to you. Welcome. And then we'll say goodbye to our other speakers just temporarily. So, Suvana, we look forward to what you have to share with us. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Martina. And a very good evening to everybody. All right, so I'm sure that everybody's aware about the Great Southern BioBlitz, very similar to the City Nature Challenge happening annually. And the Great Southern BioBlitz is happening in the summer rainfall, or rather in the Southern Hemisphere. And it's a little bit different to the City Nature Challenge. So I'm just going to give you an overview. As Martina mentioned, I'm Suvana and I manage the Kru program. But here I'm going to be just talking around iNaturalist. So for those of you who are not familiar, who are newbies to iNaturalist, it's our biodiversity data collection platform for South Africa. It's an online community that allows naturalists from all over the world to connect their observations and really to observe nature around you and provide these observations for science. And how do we contribute to citizen science? It's very easy. Using an app or the website, you upload a picture of any wild plant, animal, fungus, you name it, anything from the terrestrial or the marine spheres. The iNaturalist community then has their image recognition software to help you identify it. And we've got various tools in place to then help out other naturalists to identify their observations. And of course, then every observation becomes part of the growing record of our global biodiversity. So how do we participate? I did mention that it's very similar to the City Nature Challenge. So we do everything the same. The only change is that the Great Southern BioBlitz is happening in the Southern Hemisphere, and it gives us Southern Hemisphere countries and cities and regions an opportunity to showcase our biodiversity in our spring as compared to the City Nature Challenge, which happens in April. And we really enjoy participating in both. They both have their own emphasis. And Great Southern BioBlitz happens on an annual basis, but across September to November. So last year, you would recall that we celebrated the Great Southern BioBlitz in November, whereas this year we in September, giving our winter rainfall region an opportunity to showcase their spring. And for us in the summer rainfall region, we are a bit too early, but nevertheless, we will enjoy the event. We also use the Great Southern BioBlitz to monitor our undersampled areas, but a bit more about that later. So how do we participate? We download the iNaturalist app on our smartphones. We switch off our data during the course of the day, and we switch on locality, or rather your location on your phone, so that our GPS is picked up for our records. And then we really encourage people to take good quality photos of any living or dead organism to provide evidence of you seeing that organism. And you can take a photo from anywhere from your garden, your neighborhood, the beach, the park, and more especially our protected areas or soon to be protected areas. And then when you come back, you will then upload your observations once you're on Wi-Fi, and then check back to what people are saying about your observations. Alternatively, you can use your camera and then transfer your photos using the website. Always just remember that it's one organism per observation, and we upload when the day is over. So we're setting up our battery life whilst we're out in the field, and always carry a power bank with you. Again, just to say that we take photos as well as sound. So if you're listening out to frogs, etc. at night, you can do those records as well. So a bit more about the iNaturalist platform. If you are new to the platform, I encourage you to go to the More tab and look at video tutorials. There's a whole host of videos, and it's quite clear for you to follow. We also have the Crew Programs YouTube channel, whereby Tony's tutorials that we've been doing over the past couple of years are online and easily available. So what makes BioBlitzes more valuable? Firstly, BioBlitzes, unlike scientific surveys, are designed to collect site-specific data at a quick or at a rapid pace. We assist local conservation agencies with surveying priority areas, remnant patches of natural vegetation, undersampled sites, post-fire sites, invasive alien species, and protected areas. We increase our endemic and threatened species. Seven countries that participated last year. There's a number of observations that we've seen, as well as in plants being the highest number of highest taxonomic group observed.
Suvarna, I think your internet connection is going down a little bit. We can't hear you.
As well as invasive species.
Suvarna, can you put your video off? Yes, I think you will just have to repeat the last slide.
Okay, this slide,
Just
the slide before.
just the slide before. Thank you.
Sure. Slide seem to be stuck. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, so looking at our summary from last year's Great Southern BioBlitz, again at the international scale, just a bit of stats. And then moving on to Southern Africa. So on our continent, looking at from 2020 is when we first participated, where 5 African countries had participated, 7 regions, and we're using the term regions and not cities because some participants are the country as a whole or a province that would participate instead of a city within the province. And then within the South African stats, we are able to collect the number of threatened species that was recorded as well as the invasive species that was recorded. That is our stats for 2020. Looking at 2021, we've seen an increase with 7 African countries, 20 regions, and then South African cities and regions started coming on board with 11 in 2021. In 2022, we had 10 African countries, 35 regions representing the continent. And then also our threatened species has increased. So about 640 threatened taxa, a large proportion is our plant taxa, and then also records of, and this is really vital information for South Africa's biodiversity data set. And then last year we had 12 African countries participating, 38 regions, again, a huge number of South African participants, and the numbers were also rising over the past year. And then in this year, we have, as Martina mentioned, 40 regions participating across several countries as well. So looking at how we produce our invasive species. So here's an example of Lantana camara, and we encourage users to join projects. So here for our invasive species, it's the Nemba Alien Species Project. And once you join that project, you'll notice that it is an invasive species, and so then your records are automatically added. Similarly, for the VegMap project, so this is a landscape image that was taken of a particular species, Cypnophila leucocephala, and you can see very tiny in the thumbnails here are the species, and that's then fed into the landscape image feeds into the VegMap project. Species being critically endangered, it also feeds into the Red List S Africa project. And that is what makes our observations powerful and provides that data that's really required for conservation. So again, looking at the Great Southern BioBlitz, hopefully you've all seen this poster and have been circulating it. We are less than a month to go to the Great Southern BioBlitz. Please join the project. So very easy, open up your dashboard and you type in Great Southern BioBlitz. You'd find Southern Africa Umbrella Project. You click on About and this comes up. Please join. Here it says leave because I've joined the project and you can see very few people have joined. So please join the project. And then you're able to see all of the participants. And as the project is, or as the event is progressing, we will then be sharing journal entries and updates about the Great Southern BioBlitz. So we really encourage you to join. And with that, I'd like to say thank you all very much for joining this webinar, and we're really excited to see all of your observations during the Great Southern BioBlitz. Thanks.
Thank you, Suvana. Some really useful tips on how people can be involved and participate in the GSB. That Suvana said is indeed less than a month away. Suvana, I wonder if I can just remind people that I think there's 14 days after the GSB that people can still upload their observations. So there's a little extra window of time that would allow you to do that. And then it's really nice to see that South Africa is at the forefront of this wonderful BioBlitz initiative. Suvana, there's one question, and I think your slide that you showed on the Kniphofia leukocephala touches on that. But someone is asking if I have one organism, it's one observation, of course. But what about populations? And if I have 40 of the same species flowering, is it possible that I can record density in my observations?
100%. And that's the reason why we've got the Red List project, whereby you will have your quantities, and that's a requirement for. Sorry, absolutely. You can record density. In fact, we really want that data, and our Red List project contributions insist on having that data. So you capture the number of species, the number of plants in that population.
Fantastic. Thanks so much. We're going to hand over to our second speaker. So our second speaker is Ismail Ibrahim. Ismail is dialing in from the Cape in Vredendal, I believe. And Ismail is the program manager of the CRU CFR node. Ismail, we look forward to the Cape perspective that you're about to share with us. Thank you very much.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Coming to you live from Vredendal. So we just spent a few lovely days in the Kneesvlakte, doing some field work. So apologies for not being in a kind of organized place. We just hang on to the Wi-Fi of the venue. Can I just confirm that you can hear me okay?
Yes, all good, Ismail. You can share screen.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to share screen. Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, are you seeing my screen? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so what I prepared just for the GSB. So I'm going to go through all the areas that are kind of based in the Cape. And what I've done is I've just looked at. So these are just from the projects, just to show you the area that the region will focus on. And then I've also just selected a few species that I think would be good to target in those areas. So I haven't chosen kind of other organisms other than plants, because the CRU program mainly focuses on plants. So yeah, please be with me, and yeah, if you're into animals and stuff, I'm sure that there'll be other kind of experts that would put out information that is required for the regions. So this is the Cape Town region, and you can see it mostly focuses on the city of Cape Town boundary. And just to go through some of the species, and what I've done is I've just looked at species that are kind of flowering at this time of the year, in September, when the GSB will be, and we can target those kind of species in those areas. Yeah, and then later on I'll also just talk about the bingos that we will be putting out closer to when the GSB starts. And I'll just show an example later, but these are ones that we really, as CRU, these are threatened species that I think we need data for in these areas. Okay, so in the Cape Town region, Balbini monophylla, so this species was thought to be extinct. It was rediscovered a few years ago. but there's only a few records of this on iNaturalist. So we need, well, from one or two locations. So one, we need to just verify that this is in fact Balbini monophylla, and then look at similar habitats to see if we can find more populations. Morraya ogamana, which is also a threatened species, it's critically endangered, occurs in the flats areas, and we also require more data for that species. And then just one of the highlights for the Cape Town area, Ixia versicolor, it's a critically endangered species. It's only known from 2 locations in the Somerset West area, but it would be good to also keep a lookout for it in other places. So there might be, you know, some other fragments that would have the species on it. And then another species that we are a bit concerned about is Agathosma corymbosa. So some of the populations have declined quite radically over the last few years. One of the populations, in fact, being on the N1, N7 interchange. And we actually haven't gone to monitor that species for a while. So Agathosma corymbosa would definitely be one to look out for. Okay, then moving on to the Overstrand region, which is from around Royals through to the Dam in the Gallus Plain. And just some of the species to look out for in that area, Dizobrachycetus. So this is a tiny little orchid. It's only currently known from one place, but there are several historical records from across that area. We just have found any of those populations, so we'd love people to look out for it. It occurs in seasonally wet areas. So if you are planning some GSB events in that area, if you can look at those habitats and see if you can find this the species. Erica gracilipus is a limestone endemic species, so it occurs in the Gallus Plains, limestone areas. Brachysiphon rupestris is in the Panaenaceae family, so it's one of those Cape Florist families. And they occur in the mountains they are cliff dwelling species, so they grow in rock crevices on the sandstone mountains. A really interesting one, this Chenopodiopsis retorsa. So it's in the Scrophulariaceae family, and it was also one of those species that had a very few records. We've actually found that the species is a lot more common than we thought. And so it would be really good to get more records. And we've just seen that from the historical records, it was just known from 2 places, but we found it in several other locations. So it's probably a lot more common than we think it is, and so we'd love people to look out for the species. Okay, then moving over to the Overberg region, which is adjacent to Overstrand. And this covers a much larger area from Garabou all the way through to De Hoop and up north to like the Barrydale area and a little bits of the Little Karoo it covers. So a really massive area to cover. And just some of the species to look out for in this area. Morraya debilis, which is known from around like between Caledon and Bredasdorp. But we also suspect that there's a lot more populations of the species, so we'd love to get more records of this. Euryops hebicarpus, it's also a limestone species. And you know, sometimes these plants that are not in kind of flagship groups like the Iridaceae, they get ignored a little bit. And so we'd love you to also not only look at the big flashy pretty stuff, but also look at the inconspicuous daisies and all the other kind of random things too. So that's also one of the purposes of the BioBlitz, is to just photograph as much biodiversity as you can. Then Trachodidema pygmaeum also grows in rocky areas. And there's also like very few records of this on iNaturalist. Amphithylla speciosus, another one around the kind of central Overberg region. And we'd love to get more data for that species. Okay, then moving on to the Cape Winelands. So a few years ago, the Stellenbosch kind of area was part of GSB, but that was just the Stellenbosch municipality. We've now increased to include the Cape Winelands, which is also a massive area. And there's lots of really cool places to go and visit in that area. And that stretches from Stellenbosch all the way up into the Cederberg and kind of west to east towards Touwsrivier and Nyasberg. So some of the cool species we'd love to look out for is Watsonia strictiflora. That's around the Stellenbosch Paarl region. It's only known from a few places, but also one of those things that we think is in more places that just need to be found. Cerura gracilis, which is around the between Stellenbosch and Paarl. Gaza tilbachensis, which occurs around Paarl, but also the main populations are around the Tulbagh Valley. So we'd love to get more data on that species. And then Lotenanus prostrata around Stellenbosch, and it stretches through into the upper Breede River Valley around Tulbagh. Okay, then moving on to the Gardenroute area. And this is also a massive area. It stretches from Witstrand all the way through to Nature's Valley, and then north into the base of the Swartberg. Okay, so if you can look out for Wyborgia tenuifolia, that goes around the George area, Yersinia hispida, and Amphithylla flava, which is also mountains. Okay, then the West Coast region includes the area from Grot all the way to Redinghuis, and then across to around Porterville, and includes a little bit of the Grootwindhoek Mountains. And these, I think West Coast area is also really important because many of our threatened plants occur in this region, in the Swartland region, where there's only these tiny little fragments of vegetation that's left. So we'd love to get really good data for those areas. So just things to look out for around the Langebaan area, Murraya salvanensis. It's a new species that was discovered about 10 years ago by one of the crew volunteers. It's only known from Vredenburg, but we also think that it might be a few other places. Then Gaza platystigma is only known from 2 localities around Darling, but it's also something that it's a really tiny Gaza and so once you start looking closer at these species, I think we would actually find more populations of this. So around Darling, we'd love to find the historical record actually hasn't one of the historical records hasn't been verified, so we'd love to get more data on that particular species. Then Wyborgia dahlgrenii occurs in the West Coast National Park and around Langebaan, and Pterygonium cruciferum, also a species that we think is more common, but we need people to go and look for it. And then the Handam region, which most of the activities will mainly be focused around Nieuwertwil, but the Handam region is also a very large area, so it stretches parts of the northern Cederberg all the way through to Brandvlei and into the Karoo area. So just looking, most of the activity is likely to happen around Nieuwertwil because September is a really good time for that part of the world. And so if you are visiting flower watching in the Bokkerveld escarpment. These are just things to look out for. Guys, Gladiolus laperosioides, Ramilia singularis, Geyser rhiza subrigida. This was also one of those species that was thought to be extinct. It was rediscovered a few years ago, but we also don't know the total extent of the population. And then Babiana paparacea. Okay, so then just some tips on organizing an event. So if you're planning a trip to an interesting or plan a trip to an interesting area, get the necessary permission to access the area, set up your logistics brief. So where to meet, what time to meet, the duration of the field trip that you're planning, and the contact numbers of the organizers. And if you are organizing events in the Cape region, in those areas that I've just presented, then please share that with us, and we can also share it on our socials and our mailing list. And then just importantly, inviting people to your event. So firstly, you have to join the GSB project, and please use the journals. So if you planning trips in a particular area, if you can please add those trips to the journal, and in that way everybody that's joined the project can see what activities are going to be happening. You can use Facebook and local WhatsApp groups. WhatsApp groups have become quite an effective way of advertising field trips. So that's a very good mechanism for getting some interested people involved. And then please share those events with the crew team, and we can share it on our social pages and our mailing list. And then just I think many of the events are still in the process of being planned, but this is just what we've planned so far as the crew team. So one of our interns, Tristan, this is his schedule for the GSB. So the Friday you'll be working with the Stellenbosch, with a newly formed crew, Cape Winelands group. So they're going to be in the Stellenbosch region around Vemershoek. Saturday is doing the Upper Brede River Valley around Tolbach. Sunday will be West Coast around Langebaan. And Monday is doing Riverlands. Numbers are limited for that trip. So if anybody is interested in going on any of these trips that we have on our schedule at the moment, you're just welcome to contact us, and we can put you in contact with the people, organizers. And then Afiz and Chandre, they'll be jointly doing a BioBlitz with a refresh project on the Gullis Plain. So they'll be focusing on the Nieuwejaars wetland area and the Gullis National Park. These are limited numbers, so we have to be quite organized. And so if you want to join them in the field, you'll have to arrange the time. I will be spending GSB in the Antam region. So Friday we'll be doing the Antam Botanical Garden. I still have to confirm the other areas, but the idea is to do the South Bokkerveld on the Saturday, do Galvinia on the Sunday, and then a farm on the northern side of Nieuwoudtville, Avontuur. So I'm still in the process of getting permission to go to those properties. And then in the garden route, Nikki van Berkel is doing a trip to Brenton-on-Sea. And then on the West Coast, Nico Lobenberg, they're planning a trip to Tinis Versveld on the Sunday. And I'm sure there'll be lots more trips in the next few weeks. The schedule will be filling up with trips. Yeah, so if you are organizing events, please let us know so that we can add it to our schedules. And then lastly, we are in the process of making threatened plant bingos for the GSB. So each of the regions in the Cape at least will have a bingo page, and this will include threatened species from the region. And once we're done with that, we will share the bingos and share the instructions on how to work the bingos. And there will be prizes. So look forward to participating in the bingos. Okay, that's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ishmael. Yeah, I really think the plant bingo is a great initiative, and for people to get in touch in that sense. And also listening to Ishmael is almost like taking a virtual trip across the Cape. So always delighted to have that perspective. Ishmael, I'm going to skip questions for now, just because we're a little bit pressed for time. But if you can look out for any questions in the chat, we can tackle it there. Thanks so much. Our next speaker is Vatiswa Zekish from the Eastern Cape. Vats and I have fond memories working together as colleagues at Kirstenbosch. Vats, you will remember we practiced refining our driving skills at that time, which was almost more than 10 years ago. But Vats, thanks so much. We look forward to what you have to share with us for the Eastern Cape perspective.
Thanks, Martina, and good evening, everybody. I might have to switch off my video during my presentation as my internet is a bit unstable. But for now, I will just continue showing my face. This is Vatiswa for those of you who doesn't know me. So under the theme of engage, explore, and make a difference, as the Eastern Cape Node would like to present that the BioBlitz is a great tool for engaging citizens in science. Gosh, I can't get to my next slide.
Do you use your keyboard, Vatisha? Drive using
Yes.
forward slide in your.
I've given you some control. Maybe you can control from your side because I don't know what's happening. Even if I'm using my keyboards, it won't go to the next slide.
Wonder
That's
if you
fine.
I also see I can't forward your slide. Just escape and then use not the preview, but yeah, that's all that we can do. Just escape. So that your PowerPoint.
Do this for now. Or maybe stop share and share again.
Yeah, you can try that. Okay. So I think just progress with slides. Okay, there you are. I think it's the internet most probably. It is progressing now. Thank you.
Let me start.
Yes.
So another theme of engage, explore, and make a difference. As the Eastern Cape Node, we want to showcase that the BioBlitz model is a great tool for engaging citizens in science. Looking at a quick recap of how we operate as the Eastern Cape Node. So as some of you or most of you know that the CRU program works in a group setting or the group model, if you like. So in the Eastern Cape, we have long-standing groups such as this one, the FBG and the Port Elizabeth, or now Gqeberha. So these were the groups that were formed way before the Eastern Cape was formally established. And working in the Eastern Cape has made me realize that this model doesn't work for everybody in the province. And so we adopted a collaborative approach working with conservation partners. The way we went about this is we identified partners who are working in the conservation space and also needed some data to inform their decisions. And so we came up with strategies to collecting and documenting the flora of the Eastern Cape. So as the BioBlitz model became popular, more partners became interested in the BioBlitz approach or in doing what we are doing. And so we've grown from that. I'm struggling again to go to the next slide. Let's do this. So you can say that as the Eastern Cape, we employ these three approaches, like working as a group, collaborating with conservation partners, and also using the BioBlitz model to do our work. Typically in the CRU program, we would go for species of conservation concern and target areas that are undersampled or undercollected during the field season. But working in this BioBlitz model or the approach and working with other conservation partners, we also realize that sometimes these areas are not of interest to the public or not exciting. So we decided that when we're doing the BioBlitzes, we need to select areas or sites that are accessible and of popular interest or iconic for the BioBlitzes. And the way I look at this is that we would need to think about what is in it for the BioBlitzers. You know, yes, they are contributing to this bigger picture and they are interested and very keen to do so, but we also need to select areas that's going to make it exciting for them or enjoy. You know, like you coming out on a Saturday, you're giving up your time, you're gonna contribute to this data collection, but at the very same time, you also want to enjoy. You want to say that in the list of places that I wanted to visit, I've also been to this, whatever your definition of a nice place is. Reflecting on the Southern BioBlitz events we've participated in so far. Over the years, we have grown as a province. We started out in 2021 as Port Elizabeth or Gqeberha being the only region that participated in the BioBlitz. And in 2022, we picked up with more areas like this. In 2022, we had more areas getting involved in the Eastern Cape, including Mountain Zebra, Kamjibo, and the Pondoland and the Eastern Cape regions, Highlands regions. And 2023, also extra areas were added. This is the Grahamstown area, including the coastal regions. And the Pondoland expanded their boundary, so did the Eastern Cape Highlands, including the Maclear areas. So there were more areas now in 2023. Even now in 2024, we're going to have more areas participating. So this is very great for me because I'm looking at this and saying that more participation means that like more areas that are involved in the Eastern Cape means that there's more areas, or there are more areas that are being covered in the Eastern Cape, and there are more records of our species or biodiversity that are being recorded in the Eastern Cape. So including everything, but then for the purpose of this talk, I'm just going to be focusing on plants. As you all know that we are the program that monitors the species of conservation concern, it is also very important to note that each area represents a unique part of biodiversity. For instance, if you look at Port Elizabeth or Gqeberha, it's like now that I've been working in the Eastern Cape, I recognize PE as the area that is a hub or a hotspot for our species of conservation concern. This is Satyrium princeps, a species of conservation concern that was recorded in PE during the 2021 GSB event. And then Grahamstown or Makana, it is the area that forms part of the Maputsaland, Pondoland, Albany hotspot, and also recognized as the plant endemism or center of plant endemism. When we were doing the BioBlitz last year, GSB BioBlitz last year, we recorded this Rhombophyllum albanense, which is an endemic species, and lots of species that are endemic in the Eastern Cape, and as well as species of conservation concern. So there's quite a lot of records coming from Makanda last year and this year's City Nature Challenge. And then the Eastern Cape Highlands, also a center of endemism, but a noteworthy species that we recorded during last year's Great Southern Bioblitz is this Dracomanticola virginia, which is the high altitude species found in Southern Africa and Lesotho, and the only species in the genus. So sometimes I am not happy about when these bioblitz occur. For instance, they out of our peak season, especially in the grassland biome. But looking at this, I can acknowledge that even though they're not in our peak season, we can still pick up species that are of interest and like contribute to the bigger picture of what we stand for. And most importantly, and I think my colleagues will agree with me on this one, that the great work we are now known for was not attained by us only. It is through the great contribution that is from our citizen scientists, and their contribution and their commitment to change the world has made us who we are today. And so these are some of the great citizens that you find in the Eastern Cape. I've managed to take some pictures of all the people who participated in this bioblitz. And of course, this is not everybody. And with that said, I would like to meet or to introduce the 2024 new participants, the University of Fort Hare and the Hawke's Bay. So in addition to the places or the regions that were participating last year, we've now added these two areas. They form one project, but then they're gonna do their events separately, and hoping to add more areas. So from the 7 participating regions we had last year, we added 2, so it's gonna be 9 areas or regions in the Eastern Cape. And I thank you.
Thank you, Mats. Certainly wonderful things happening in the Eastern Cape as well. If I'm not mistaken, you are based in Grahamstown, right?
Yes, I am.
If anyone would like to get in touch with Patiswa, you're welcome to do that. And as you can see, there's a lot of priorities and plants, but also other perspectives to explore in the Eastern Cape, through the small groups making a big difference. Thank you so much, Bats.
Yes.
We don't have any immediate questions, but we can also take them afterwards, depending on how much time we have, should anything come through.
Sure.
Our second last speaker for the webinar tonight is Eunisia Situ. Eunisia is the Botsok Crew Conservation Project Coordinator based in KwaZulu-Natal, but Eunisia is also from Polokwane. Eunisia, we look forward to the KZN perspective and what you have to share with us. Thank you. Over to you.
Okay, hello everyone. Martina. So as Martina has mentioned, I'll be talking about the summer rainfall region. So the green portion of the South African map is the summer rainfall region, pretty vast if you ask me. I'm happy to say that all the cities that participated last year are also participating again this year with a new edition of Ilembe District with this blue star here. So our summer rainfall participation is increasing. That is good for us, with like 4 cities participating in KZN alone. So I'll be looking at sites that you can visit for GSB. So starting with KwaZulu-Natal, we have 4 places, 4 cities that are registered. And the interesting thing about KZN is that we have a mixture of sites. So we have stewardship sites, community sites, and nature reserves as we know them. And then we also have sites that are managed by the municipalities such as Asegai. So if you are in either of these districts in KZN, these are the sites that you can visit. Myself and Suvana will be in the Ilembe district visiting Mayko, which is an offset site, and Amatikulu Nature Reserve, amongst other sites. So these are not all the sites, but just an overview of the sites that we'll be visiting for GSB in KZN. Now going to Northwest in Potchefstroom, there will be bioblitzing Eliaza Street. So it's this area here and Boskop Dam Nature Reserve. These are some of the interesting plants that you can expect to see when you're at Boskop Dam in the Northwest Province. And then if you are in Mpumalanga, they will be visiting the Mariepskop Nature Reserve. And this is now within the Blyde River Canyon Nature Reserve. So you can also join this project, Biodiversity of the Blyde River Canyon Nature Reserve, also along with the GSB as well. These are some of the endemic species that you can look forward to seeing this September as you go to Mariepskop. So if you are in Mpumalanga, please join the PSG or the Mpumalanga group when they visit this site. I also would like to thank Delia for this landscape photo. And then for our Gauteng crew, they will be visiting the Cullinan or Windy Brow Game Reserve in Cullinan. So what is interesting about this site is that it is being prioritized. As you can see on this red arrow, there is a mine. So this is a site that is threatened, so to speak, in terms of changes in biodiversity, since there might be possible mine expansions. So BioBlitzing, they will actually help to collect data and help the department to have an inventory of the species that are there. There are some types of conservation concern in the site as well. So please, if you are in Gauteng, in Pretoria, please do join the Gauteng crew and Boskop group to this site. And then if you are in Limpopo, Polokwane, they will be visiting the Molechi Nature Reserve. As you can see here, there are no observations at all within the reserve. So this will be an interesting site, as there might be new records made during the GSB, which is why we also have GSB as well. On my right, you can also see some interesting plants that you can see during your time, because there are only few records. There will be more things that you will see during GSB. So please, if you are in Polokwane, please join the team and visit this nature reserve. And then for Free State, I don't know yet where they are going, but this is a suggestion of the site where you can go if you are in Bloemfontein. So it's a nature reserve within the city, which makes it amazing. So if you're looking for a city break, you can just go to this Naval Hill Nature Reserve, and you can visit all the sites that have gaps within the reserve, make your observations there. So you can literally go to this reserve throughout GSB weekend. And then you can also see some of the interesting plants that you look forward to seeing there. And with that, I would like to thank you for listening. Please make sure to join. If you don't know who to talk to, you can go to the GSB project on iNaturalist and contact the organizers from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Nazia, for that fantastic overview of those regions. For anyone that would like to get involved in the Limpopo or the KZN regions, you're welcome to contact Nazia. I see there's some people that are making nice connections in the chat also for regions up there. So that's fabulous to see also. No immediate questions at the moment, Nazia. So we'll probably go over to Tony as the last speaker for the webinar tonight. Tony is going to show us a couple of powerful or useful tools with a sort of a live platform on INAT. And I'm sure many of you have noticed that INAT has become quite a useful and powerful tool for many reasons, but I'll leave it over to Tony to go into the details. Thanks, Tony.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Let me connect. Can you see my screen?
Yes, all good.
Thank you. So we're going to have 4 days of great BioBlitzing. We're going to go out there and enjoy ourselves, but when we finish, the real work begins. and that is the task of identifying all those observations that everyone has done. So we've got 14 days to do the identifications. That's a huge amount of identifications, and I'm hoping that everyone who was out in the field and enjoyed themselves will at least contribute a little bit to helping with identifications. Now, to do identifications, there's an identify tool on iNaturalist in the top toolbox there. We can click on identify, and that should open up the filter. There we are. It opens up the identify toolbox, and we can then use the filters, this box over here, to refine our selection. Another way to do it is to do the explore and set up your species that you're interested in and the area that you're interested in. So if we go to the map, we can use these toolboxes there, and we can go and select our area. And when we're happy that we've got what we want, we can go to the filter box, do some more filtering, but we can click the identify button over there and start identifying straight away. What we propose for the Southern BioBlitz is that we'd like you please to go to your great Southern BioBlitz umbrella. Please, 33 people have joined. I want to see all of you join by tonight, because this is the one where we coordinate for Southern Africa. And if you go down to the bottom to the frequently asked questions, we will have during the event postings on what's happening and what we need and how you can help us. And if you go in, I've just set this up, if we go to the frequently asked questions there, we will have a thing saying, do you want to help us identify proteas? Click there, and all you do is you click on that link, and that'll open up the identify curation tool for you to use. So we'll make it very easy throughout the days. As we go through the 14 days, we will focus on different things and refine the focus and direct you where you can help us most. So here's the case. I've got the toolbox set up. It's for Proteaceae in Southern Africa, and I've chosen Proteaceae because we know it fairly well, and you'll be able to work along with me and help me with the identifications. So this is the page we get for the identifier tool. This is just the orientation page. You'll see there different pages, and we can choose which one we want if we want. But this is to guide us along. On this side over here, the number of observations that you've identified and the number of observations that are still needing identification. So if you're happy with your filters and happy with everything, just go ahead. Just for the Great Southern BioBlitz, you choose a group that you know. So we'll be dividing into the grasslands and savannas and the fynbos. Choose a group you know, like Ericas or if you like Restios, whichever tickles your fancy. And please try and do it for the whole region. But if you can't, then zoom into your particular area that you know best. And the filter box here will then reflect that choice. To use it, you can see it as I move along, it comes up with the option to mark as reviewed. So if I look at something and say, there's no ways I'm going to identify this, I can just mark it as reviewed and it will disappear from my toolbox. I can also, if it's got a species identification, I can click agree over here and quickly agree with the ones that are obvious. But please, it's better to go into the tool rather than to work on this page. This is just your orientation page. So to open the toolbox, we click on one. Let's click that one. And we can see here is the observation. It's got 3 pictures. And we can scroll through them and look at what's on the different pictures and help us make our decision. Adelaide, who put the observation on, said it's Protea laurifolia, and I agree with her. Here we can see the map, and if we zoom in or out of the map, we can see the other localities for Protea laurifolia in that region. If you want to look at the map in more detail, you can click there and open the map full screen. So this map helps orientate you, and based on the community ID in the top corner, it'll show you the other observations from there. We can see, this is a nice new record outside of where we've got records, but it's within the range of the species, so it's not something that we need to worry about. Here we've got the date and where it is. Notice that it'll be a circle if it's obscured, but we won't go into that anymore. And if I need to go and look in things in more detail, I can click on the view box and it will open up in a new tab on the top there, and I can go look at that observation in detail. On this panel, we've got the 3 pictures we saw. If I want to look at it in more detail, I can click on there and it'll pop it out in full size. Again, as a tab, and I can go explore more there. And if it's too dark, I can lighten it. And if it's too light, I can darken it and go in and look in those nooks and crannies for details that otherwise might be missed. And I can zoom in and show it in bigger. So this is that side over there that shows the pictures. We have the option here of adding it to favorites. Remember, for the Great Southern Biblists, we will have a picture and observation of the event. So it's by adding to your favorites that we give faves, and that'll give us the winning observation for the event or for the different cities. If it was planted, obviously planted, please click it as captive or cultivated, just so that we know that it is there. And there's the reviewed option. If you don't want to do an ID, you don't want to do anything, you want to just mark it as reviewed, you can mark it as reviewed there. Okay, so here we've got the observation. What are we going to do about it? On this panel, we've also got several other options. This is the info panel, and all we've got at this stage is the Protea laurifolia ID. But if I want to try and get an ID, I can click on suggestions, and it will now filter by research grade observations in the section that this Protea belongs to on the region that it was done in, which is the West Coast, and it'll come up with the other options there. And I merely select the one that I think is correct if I want to use this tool. There's also an annotations box. We won't be using this for the BioBlitz, but it's there if you want to look at it. And then there's also data quality assessment, and we won't worry about that for the BioBlitz. So we'll be focusing on the information, doing the IDs, and if we get stuck, we can go look at the suggestions there. So I'm happy with this. Can I move this? Yeah, I'm happy with this. I'm going to click on the agree button, and iNaturalist will then add the, notice that it needs ID, Protea laurifolia. Once my agreement is added, which hopefully will happen soon, it goes to research grade. And so now I'm finished with that page. I want to go to the next one. Well, there's 2 handles there. I can go backwards, which I can't because this is the first, or I can go forward to the next one. Cerurea fucifolia, it's the same area, also by Adele, and that looks good. There she's showing that it's single stemmed, nice. And there we have the flower there. I'm happy with that. I agree. Go on to the next one. I don't have to wait for iNaturalist to catch up. Now here's one that she doesn't know what it is, but this is fucifolia again. So I go here and say add an ID. Cerurea fuci, I type. I don't have to type. It will go search the dictionary for a match for whatever I type. And in this case, there's only one match, which is Cerurea fucifolia. I agree with that and save it. Go on to the next one. So this is a really superb tool. You can work really fast and see what needs doing. See whether you agree with the ID. Whoopsie, no, that's not Protea nerifolia. It's in the range of Protea nerifolia, but this is Protea burchellii. So I'm going to add an ID there, Protea burchellii. Come on. There we are, Protea burchellii. Click, you must always click and save. And now you'll see that it'll change from Protea nerifolia. It will go up to the genus level ID because that's the common one between the two. Now, someone else is going to have to come and evaluate and make it a research grade observation. And we'll need 2 more. So either Joe Simon is going to have to change the ID, agree to that, or 2 people are going to have to do it so to become research grade. Okay, and so we go on through our observations. Cerurea glomerata, there's the distribution. That's what it looks like. No problem. Great ID. And here's one. He didn't know what it is. He just said Proteaceae. No, I disagree. That's an Athona. That's a daisy. So I just called it Athona. If I didn't know it was an Athona, I could just say daisy and put it in Asteraceae. And it will now go to plants. It'll say it's a plant. There we are. Because that's the combination. Someone's going to have to come along and evaluate that. And part of the process of this tool is that it integrates everything between people, and it integrates it for you, and it makes it really cool and efficient for this identification process. So, and when you come to the end of your page, so when you've done all of these, and you come to the last one, That's Lucas Pimmerman-Carter, that's correct. And you go there, it'll come and ask you, do you want to mark all the ones that you didn't ID as reviewed? And you can click on that. And then those ones will now disappear from your workflow. You've looked at them, you couldn't identify them, you've cleared them, and they won't pop up again. And that's what's so cool. So it's integrating several hundred people doing IDs at the same time. You won't ever see anything you've done. And it's a really fast and efficient way of doing curation. And at the same time as you helping, we'll try and get the specialists from the museums to also help. So they will be doing the more detailed and the finer stuff in their specialist areas. And so the identification gets done very fast and efficiently. So please, it's important that you join that umbrella project and that you keep tabs on what's happening with the journal, because we'll be posting updates there and telling you what's happening and how many we've done and how many more we've got to do and which cities are having problems. And then we'll integrate and we'll all work together to do the identification problems. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks so much for that. Really useful tips. I hope we've convinced everyone that INAT is a powerful and useful tool. And you can see that Tony has shared some of the valuable tips and developments of INAT that you can all tap into. Thank you for that, Tony. If you'd like, possibly, you can see that Tony has a lot to share on INAT. You're welcome to also let us know, and we'll try and make it happen. Of course, with Tony's availability, we've done a couple of INAT workshops for BOTSOC in the Cape region, and we could possibly look at that, when people would be interested to it. Very much looking forward to the Great Southern BioBlitz. I think it was useful to see so many tips being shared, different perspectives from across the country. We hope that you are all inspired to get involved. You have enough time to set up your projects, to get involved. And there's also the link to the umbrella project for Southern Africa in the chat. If anyone would like to, well, all of you should actually register there as Tony instructed. And Suvana, I wonder if I can hand over to you just to close us up, or if you had any last thoughts for what priorities could be for the GSP that you'd like to highlight.
Oops, I think she lost connection there.
Okay, I think Suvana unfortunately dropped that off the call, or at least froze to some degree. But on that note, I think I'm going to thank all our speakers, and just to remind everyone to be involved. You can really make a big difference. Don't ever think that the group is too small. There is one question: are observations added automatically to all relevant projects, or are there some such as VegMap photo that must be added? I believe you have to add the VegMap photos. Tony, I don't know if you want to respond to that question quickly.
Yes, for the VegMap project, you need to follow the instruction of the landscape, and then you need to add it to the project. And from there, the organizers, the curators will manage it.
Fantastic.
Tablets, it's automatic. So long as you've joined, it will show next to your observation. But even if you don't, the data will still go to the project.
Thanks, Tony. Yeah, so just to say also, if anyone would like to recap the information that was shared, or you'd like to look at it again, the webinar should be available in the next couple of days on the YouTube channel. So you can definitely make a use of that resource and recap some of the great tools that were shared from all of our speakers. So thank you very much to our 5 speakers, and thank you to our audience also for joining. We'll see you in next month's September webinar at the usual time, 5 o'clock, and the last Thursday of the month. Looking forward to that. Have a good evening, everyone.